Kevin Costner's NYC and Well Child. Prince Harry is Mr. Independent.
Meanwhile, Catherine, Princess of Wales, has made her first public appearance and is back to work since the wonderful news that she's completed her course of preventative chemotherapy.
Hello and welcome to Heirs and Spares, the show where we bring you insight and opinion into the lives of two rather famous royal couples on either side of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on the Duke and Duchess of Sussex in California.
And I'm Katie Nicholls, and I'll have all the latest news from the UK on the Prince and Princess of Wales. And I think, Kinsey, should we just start with the Princess of Wales? Because I think anytime we sort of get a sighting of her or hear news from her, certainly you, our viewers, are always very, very keen for updates. This was a photograph that was taken over the weekend on Sunday of the Princess of Wales in the passenger seat of a Range Rover being driven by her husband on their way to a church service at Crowthy Kirk. We didn't know that the couple were at Balmoral. They don't usually go this time of year. They tend to go in August with the children for a sort of extended family holiday. But this was the two of them on their own, so having some special time together, going to church with the King and Queen and some other family members, including the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, with whom we know they're very close. Kate and Sophie have a very, very close friendship and relationship. And I think it was really lovely to see them out and about and to know that, well, obviously that Kate is feeling well enough to make the trip to Aberdeenshire, that she's feeling comfortable enough to leave the children behind, we think, with her parents in Bucklebury, and just having some downtime with her husband. I don't know what you thought, Kinsey, but you couldn't see too much of her through the window of the Range Rover, but she was wearing a hat that I've seen her wear before, a feathered hat. She looked very elegant. She was wearing a beautiful pair of gold earrings. She was in makeup. She looked incredibly well. What did you make of that picture?
I thought she looked great, and I love when she wears, I think it's a little fedora. I love when she wears that hat too. There is something, and maybe I'm just a little overprotective because of what you and I have both seen throughout the last year, 2024. It felt like there was a real invasion of privacy when it came to the Princess of Wales that we have talked about right here on this program, and how we rejected it, the TMZs and the Bushes and things. So there is a little part of me that feels guilty clicking on a picture of her on her way to church, but
yeah,
at the same time, she did look beautiful. She looked healthy. I'm so happy to see that she's feeling well enough to be out and about with other family members. And I do look forward to seeing her on her terms in the future.
I just want to pick up on what you said, because I think that's really interesting. And and perhaps people will get in touch with us about this after the show, but I wonder how many people might have felt uncomfortable seeing that picture. I have to say I didn't feel uncomfortable because the King was at the service. Yes, it was a private service, but he is often photographed going to church. There were other family members. I think there was probably an expectation that she knew there was a pretty high chance that she was going to be photographed. I mean, to me, this feels quite different to the footage that was taken of her, say, before her diagnosis, when they were photographed at a farm shop in Windsor. And clearly her and William had no idea that they were being photographed or filmed by a member of the public. So to me, it doesn't feel intrusive. We certainly haven't had any sort of kickback or any red lights in terms of using the image from the palace. And as I say, going to Crowthy Kirk is sort of part of royal tradition. It's what you do when you're at Balmoral. I think for me the most surprising thing was that they were actually up there, that they'd taken this weekend away, left the children behind. And I think that's wonderful. We know they love Scotland. We know it's always been a very special place to them. Certainly I remember when they were dating at St Andrews, one of the places where they would often escape to for a weekend or a few days, was Scotland. They had their own little cottage on the Balmoral estate. Well, they've been slightly elevated from that little cottage, Tamnagar, which is where they used to stay, up to the big castle now, of course, where I'm sure they have, their choice of wings. But I think very encouraging that they're up there. King and Queen have been up there for most of the summer. I think they're just on their final days of winding down because, of course, their big tour to Australia and Samoa is coming up. We haven't had any guidance as to whether there were meetings between the King and the Prince and Princess of Wales. I'm hearing that they did meet, not getting any guidance officially on the record from Buckingham Palace about that. But I think it's it was lovely to see them as a family up in Scotland. And as I say, for William and Catherine to have that time together.
You're absolutely right. This is not her first rodeo. She's going to know when she should expect to see cameras and when this is exactly one of those instances. So again, I think I'm
Yeah.
probably just being overly critical. You know, there were reports earlier this week that she is back to work. Would you hesitate in that when it comes to that headline? Would you say
Yeah,
she's
I
going to
would.
show up when she feels
Yeah,
like
I
it?
would, because I think, I think when you're saying she's back to work, it's like, all right, well, I'm not saying you're saying that, Kinsey.
Yeah.
I'm saying when people are saying she's back to work, it's sort of like this expectation that we're going to see her resume a full schedule of engagements. That's simply not going to be the case. Yes, she attended a roundtable discussion with some of the committee from her Early Years Foundation. We know that the Early Years was something that was really earmarked as a big project for Catherine for 2024. And a lot of that's had to go on the back burner because of her diagnosis and her subsequent treatment. Now that she is working from home, she is sort of slowly getting back into the swing of things. Obviously, the early years is something she's going to want to get involved with, but I think this idea that she's back to work is a bit misleading, and people shouldn't have any misconceptions about that. She's not back to work. We know we're going to see her on a couple of occasions. The Cenotaph on Remembrance Sunday coming up in November. We will see her at the carol concert that she hosts at Westminster Abbey every year. And I think we might get more of these announcements in the court circulars where she's, feeling up to taking meetings, particularly around the early years, as I said, something that she's had to put on the back burner. But what we're not going to see, which is of course what we were used to up until this year, was seeing Catherine three times a week, traveling around the country or further afield, carrying out joint and solo engagements. I mean, she has said and made it very clear that this isn't a full-time return to work. She's going to do what she can. I think we're going to see her probably cherry picking and doing not just what she feels she can do, but what she feels is really important for her to do. I think she's really going to be prioritizing, and we were used to seeing her traveling up and down the country, often quite exhaustively, and she's made very clear that her focus needs to be on her recovery, on staying cancer free, on her family. She's going to have to put herself first, I think, in all of this, and that's what she's going to do.
This is probably a very stupid question, but when it comes to the court circular, if the Princess of Wales were to have a quick Zoom meeting or, have a quick phone call with people to catch up on things, would we necessarily see that published? Or could she might be doing other things behind the scenes that we don't know about, and it's not physical, so maybe it's not necessarily announced.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure we're going to get details of phone calls. I think that's going to be sort of put to working from home, which, the palace has said she's going to be doing. But I think where there might be audiences with, or important meetings like the one last week at Windsor Castle, yes, I think that they will be announced through the court circular. And it's very possible that we may see her out and about in a public facing engagement. I think that is likely. I just think that's not going to be on as regular a basis as we are used to. And it'll be when she feels it's right, when she feels it's something important that she wants to put the spotlight on. Because we're talking, aren't we, Kinsey, about the whole story has been published just about the fact that she's been photographed through a car window on her way to church. So if she actually turns up and does a public facing engagement, that's going to generate big news. And of course, she knows she's got that spotlight. She knows she can pull that attraction onto something. So I think that is very likely that will happen, and I think it will be around a cause that's very important to her. But it's not going to be on a regular basis. So this idea that she's back to work, I think we just need to be a little bit careful with that. Yeah, a little bit careful with that.
We know who's very busy right now is Prince Harry. He's keeping the road.
Yes, he's definitely back at work. He's definitely over those birthday celebrations and back to work, big style.
The Tyler Perry hangover is over. He's set to kick off a week of high-profile events in New York. We actually saw some video of him working with the Diana Awards on Monday, but he's without his wife, Meghan Markle, by his side. And I was thinking to myself, has Meghan returned to NYC since the near catastrophic car chase? And the answer actually is yes. Last October, both Harry and Meghan were in NYC for the Archwell Foundation's first Parents Summit Mental Wellness in a Digital Age event. So it's not that it's not that Prince Harry is afraid to bring her to New York because of the car chase, the way he says that he doesn't want to bring her to the UK because he's afraid of acid attacks and things like that. Harry's New York work will include leading an event to mark the 25th year of the Diana Award, established to promote his late mother's belief in the positive power of young people, as well as other initiatives, including African Parks, the Halo Trust, and Travelist. We know Harry does not like bringing Meghan to the UK. He's there in a week. Meghan was allegedly too sick to appear at Kevin Costner's event over the weekend. They've left their children alone to travel on multiple faux royal tours this year. It sounds like Meghan wanted to sit this trip out. It's a lot of networking behind closed doors. Maybe that's not beneficial enough for them. Maybe she just didn't want to leave the kids home alone anymore. But obviously, we are seeing a lot of headlines surrounding the fact that this is Prince Harry on his own. And it was a rare moment for Prince Harry over the weekend when he was presenting an award instead of accepting one at the annual 1805 Live Fall Charity Concert that takes place at Kevin Costner's beachfront estate to benefit first responders in Santa Barbara County. Last year, there was an awkward moment where Meghan tried to take the microphone from someone and they did not want to give it up. But this year, Meghan stayed home due to an illness, according to the Mirror. And yeah, like I said, she will not be accompanying him to the Well Child Awards in the UK, not in New York at this time. So make of that what you will.
Can I just jump in, Kinsey, and say also, when you're looking at those initiatives, African Parks, the Halo Trust, Travelers, they're very much his projects. They're very much his ventures. And I just wonder, I know people want to read into why she's not there in New York, but I just wonder if it, it might be because they are his projects, they are his initiatives. The Diana Trust is to mark the sort of 25 years of this charity. And, possibly she stayed away so that Harry can sort of, be the center of attention.
Right. And they have left the children alone a couple of times this year for their tours, international tours. So I feel as if she's said, you know what, I'm going to sit this one out. I want to stay with the babies. Fall is such an exciting time when it comes to school. All of a sudden you've got all these parties. You got to provide the fall cookies for parties. You're dressing up for Halloween. It's just, once you kind of slide into the holidays, there are so many fun little events that you want to be a part of. And then additionally, he's headed to the UK. And he has said, I don't feel comfortable bringing my wife to the UK. So I'm not really shocked that she's not with him in New York. And I don't necessarily feel like that is too much of a big deal.
No, and I think we're not going to be particularly shocked if she doesn't come over to the UK for the Well Child Awards. We know Harry's coming over here. I think it's, as you say, very unlikely, given everything over their security and the fact that Harry doesn't have the Met taxpayer funded security, that he's going to bring Meghan and the kids over anytime soon. So I think when he comes to the UK, it'll be a solo trip too.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Harry and Meghan and the elections coming up, because there have been a lot of negative headlines surrounding this. It was a release, it was kind of a story on Archewell's website urging people to register to vote in the upcoming election. And it sparked criticism that they should not be getting involved with anything to do with a presidential election. Did you see this release? They said we recognize.
Yeah, but it's not the first time, is it, that they've done this? I mean, they did this last time round, and I don't know, Kinsey, is encouraging people to use their vote getting political? Is it just getting people to be active? I mean, I think certainly over here in Britain, if I'm thinking about a general election, you never hear a senior member of the royal family encouraging people to go and vote. But it sort of feels a bit different over in California. It feels a bit different now that Harry's not a working member of the royal family.
And I do think Kensington Palace or Buckingham Palace said something during the last election when people were lashing out because they went on TV and said that this was the most important election. They were much more vocal during the last election. And I do think the palace said, as he is no longer a working royal, something to that effect. Like he can do what he wants. He's no longer a working royal. But
and he's not telling people which way to vote, right? He's not getting political in that respect.
But
they're just encouraging people to use the vote.
I know what you're saying, but only one of these people has said they're going to deport him. So
Yes.
so we know which side he's leaning.
Of course we do. Of course we do. But look, as I said, I think if he was a working member of the royal family, I think something like that could get him in hot water. I think now people are, well, I don't know, how charged up are people about us? You guys, you tell us how charged up you are about this. Like, I can't imagine it's getting people too hot under the collar. And as I say, you know, we've heard them sort of rallying and getting people to go to the ballot box in the past. This isn't the first time they've done this.
Yeah, well, the chairman of the Republican movement in the UK, Greg Swinson, told the Daily Mail, by encouraging people to vote, they are essentially ballot harvesting for Kamala Harris. He said, you don't have to say it. You don't need a bumper sticker. We know who you voted for.
Yeah.
And then Radar Online ran a headline that said, Prince Harry ordered to leave US by voters furious. He and his wife, Meghan, have weighed in on presidential election. You're not even a citizen. And that story had a collection of furious tweets. But you know, it felt like the last time it was much more intense. You had the Republican representative Jason Smith. He actually wrote a letter to the British ambassador to the US, Karen Pierce, arguing that it was inappropriate for them to get involved. So I think I'm going to sit back and wait and see how nasty it gets. But the tone is definitely different. I think Harry and Meghan might have learned a lesson last time, and they might be toning it down just a little bit this upcoming election.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think let's wait and see. I mean, I think they're going to be, I think they'd be unwise to wade any further in than they have done. I think this is sort of just pushing enough on that slightly controversial boundary. I suspect it'll die away, but like you say, let's wait and see. Let's see how much more political, with a small p, they might be over the coming weeks as you build up to that election date.
Well, watch this space. If you agree with us, if you disagree with us, let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. We will see you again soon. Thanks so much for watching.
Until next week, thank you.